Welcome to NutriRebel Red Pill Edition, where we cover neglected demographics and neglected topics of all sorts. Today we're going to be speaking regarding police amalgamation. The subsequent consolidation of police forces is a bad sign. They claim that it's for cost savings. That's the rationale. They've been doing this for about 25, 30 years in Canada. And the lack of addressing the reasons why there's so much crime happening. Instead, they simply just hire more police and say we have to consolidate things. It is ridiculous, not seeming, it is ridiculous. And I have a video here that's publicly available. You could do more research if you want, but it's very interesting.
Right now, the white whale is very much on the surface. I think primarily because of Mr. Justice Opal's report into the missing women debacle in Metro Vancouver and the numerous recommendations that flowed from that, including a recommendation that was heavily endorsed and advanced by the Vancouver Police Department, which was that there was a dire need for a regional police service of some kind in Metro Vancouver, and that if that had been in place when Picton began his antics, there probably wouldn't have been so many deaths. As simple as that, straightforward, one-sentence statement that I think is extremely telling.
As you can see, that's one of the reasons they give also to amalgamate, consolidate police forces is because there's dangerous people on the loose, and we have to consolidate police forces so we can all have a stronger police force. Still, that does not address why these people are around, why they're sick. That killer that they mentioned, that serial killer, he was feeding people to his pigs in somewhere in BC, and they say he was affiliated with Justine Trudeau, the ex-Prime Minister of Canada, just left last month. Anyway, like I said, it doesn't address why they're getting sick. And look at the background image here, orthomolecular medicine. Look that up. On the left side is Dr. Abraham Hoffer. In the middle is Mr. Tommy Douglas, the Premier of Saskatchewan back in the 1950s. Top is Dr. Linus Pauling. He basically founded modern-day chemistry and modern-day science. And on the right is Dr. Humphrey Osmond. That's where the term psychedelic came from, was from Humphrey Osmond. Yep. Some things we don't know.
So in the event the provincial government decided that an amalgamated police service was necessary in Victoria, in Greater Victoria, Metro Victoria, and there was a police service that pushed back against that, and notwithstanding the political consequences,
political consequences
could enact that those police services amalgamated, including those who objected to doing it.
Now, the political consequences, of course it's political, because when they consolidate police forces, they consolidate surveillance, they consolidate a bunch of things that you would see in a third world country. It's just amazing that people actually believe this stuff, and they don't look into the details. Nobody tells them the details, and they basically just rely on the media. But in the context of totalitarian regimes, police amalgamations or the merging of different police forces in a single powerful entity can be a tool for consolidating power and suppressing dissent, as seen in historical examples like the Soviet Union.
In future, these people
a more detailed explanation is totalitarianism and police power. Totalitarian regimes characterized by extreme control over all aspects of society often rely heavily on a powerful police force to enforce the ideology and maintain order. Can we say Stasi and East Germany? It was only 30 years ago that it was dismantled, they say. Can you imagine? This has been going on in Canada. And get this, we had our first joint military police facility, training facility in Windsor, Ontario, Canada. 2004 was when it opened. It's on the West End. I actually visited there many times, and I wasn't interested in this stuff 20 years ago, 22 years ago. But of course, you're just paranoid if you talk about these things. And that was the first joint military training facility. Tilson Armory, I think it's called. Anyway, here's more. You should look up what I say.
1995 is the most recent one, and it was a quiet amalgamation. Was
Quiet, quiet, yeah.
The Matsqui Police Department and the Abbotsford RCMP detachment were amalgamated. Significantly, this occurred not because of any policing requirement, but simply because they decided to amalgamate the municipalities of Matsqui and Abbotsford. And this, ladies and gentlemen, is a recurring theme.
Yes, it is.
That it's not so much the needs for effective policing, public safety, public security
Yep.
in an area, it's more a reorganization of an area politically.
Yes, it is.
That results in amalgamations of police services.
Yeah.
This happened, as you can see, the next one, 1995, it happened in Honorable Carlton.
If you look in the history of policing in Canada, the province of Ontario, they had over, maybe 50 years ago, they had over 150 independent police agencies, practically for every city and municipality. Today, less than 50. So that just shows you it's pretty bad. The consolidation has been happening for silently, like you said, a quiet amalgamation. Those happens all the time. No one hears about it in the media.
There's a regional police service there that was a product of an amalgamation of 3 municipalities. They amalgamated again in 2001 to form the Ottawa Police Service. This was a model that was actually followed in Montreal.
Yeah. Again, look up what I said. Police amalgamations over the past 50 years, especially in Ontario. There used to be 150 police agencies. Now there's less than 50. And again, it's not addressing why people get sick. Why are so much crime happening? They're not getting proper medical care at the doctor's office. Even if we had full funding, they're not trained in cellular nutrition, according to orthomolecular nutrition or orthomolecular medicine. Look up these guys online. I'm not making this up. It might be hard to read the text. I did that on purpose because I was going to overlay some text on it, but I decided not to at this time.
Where they went, I think it was down from 30 municipalities to 12.
Yeah.
And then down to a single police service. I'm not sure about those numbers, but something like that.
This is crazy.
And then 1996, there's the creation of the Halifax Regional Police, amalgamation of Halifax Police Department, Dartmouth Police Department, and the Bedford RCMP. I don't know if people are familiar with this, but these are the municipalities that surround the harbour. Bedford Basin goes way in quite a distance, and there was an RCMP detachment that looked after that particular community. Dartmouth to the north,
in Halifax,
of the harbour, and Halifax City to the south. So again, this was a function of the creation of a Halifax Regional Municipality. Had nothing necessarily to do with effective policing. When the new police services created, a decision was made, rightly or wrongly, to continue the RCMP in the rural areas of the new Halifax Regional Municipality, and they are extremely rural. I was asked to just briefly identify some key terms.
It's a nightmare.
These will be on the exam. It's important because a lot of information comes from journalists. God bless them.
Thank God.
They invariably get these terms mixed up. Regionalisation is a buzzword, very much like community was a buzzword in the late 60s, early 70s. If you attached community in front of almost anything, you'd be assured of funding.
Yeah.
And that was most certainly the case with policing and corrections and a whole range of different areas. Pardon my cynicism.
Yeah.
I tend to be an iconoclast. I really respect nothing.
That's good. Like I said, look up what I mentioned. The police have been the politicians have been consolidating power over decades, and now they're finalizing it. You see what's happened the past 5 years with the so-called pandemic, with the politicians not getting voted. We didn't elect these politicians. They're performing all kinds of illegal actions, and they have no one to resist because all the police forces are under their control. Yeah.
So regionalisation is a term that can be used basically to apply to two possibilities. One, the creation of a single police service in a particular area.
Yeah.
If you go to Ontario, for example, you've got Holdham and Norfolk Regional Police Service. That's an amalgamation of smaller towns and police services into one. Or it can refer to the sharing of services across a particular policing area.
Yep.
And I note with some amusement that the last 5 years, this term regionalisation has been fully embraced by the RCMP.
Of course it was.
Even though I don't think they're terribly keen on the idea of amalgamated police services for the large metro areas.
Yep. Yep. It's most of these actions are done in stealth, and again, doesn't address why people are getting sick. Like I said, like I see in my channel, we're eating a lot more processed foods. We're not getting proper cellular nutritional analysis. People are stressed. What happens when you're stressed? Many nutrients get depleted in your body. And what happens when your nutrients deplete? Organ dysfunction, right? Magnesium is a big one. That depletes very quickly under stress. So does B complex. Those are just generalizations, however. To find out what you need as an individual, you must get an individualized assessment. And it's much lower cost than you think. And people like me actually do it for free for people who can't afford it. In exchange, I hope you can spread the word about what I do. Yeah.
The second term to watch out for is amalgamation. You'll see this as attached to municipalities, to the amalgamation of municipalities, bringing existing municipalities together into a new municipality. It casts fear into the heart of most municipal politicians.
Of course.
And a lot of other individuals who stand to benefit from the status quo in a particular city. So in many ways it's a dirty word, but in terms of policing services it makes a heck of a lot of sense, especially in Metro Vancouver where amalgamation is clearly long overdue.
Yeah. And Dr. Abram Hoffer on the left, he made videos before he died. He did a lot of activism, showing that what happens when people get well? They start working, right? And they start becoming members of society. They don't have to resort to criminal activities. Do you think people really want to be criminals? No, they have to do it out of necessity. Many of them have criminal records already, and they can't find the JOB anywhere, especially with all the immigrants coming in. And the politicians saying there's a labor shortage. There's no labor shortage. You have nowhere to live. I've been through that my whole life, trying to find somewhere to live, and I had my health problem too. It's just like it's like one part of one leg of the table collapses, and the other you hold it up with a plastic leg. It's not going to hold it up forever. That's what medications are like, and that's what politicians are doing. They are covering up the symptoms of the causes of the problems that they're causing over the decades for votes.
And it just simply means combining existing services into one new service. And there are arguments for and against that.
Yeah.
I think, on balance, the arguments in favour of it push aside those against. One of the biggest ones this day and age is how much is it going to cost?
Yeah.
An amalgamation, I think, generally is shown to be very cost-effective. Certainly not costing any more. You're more likely to get a more efficient police service if you amalgamate.
Therefore, you'll see in the video, they kind of contradict themselves, but I think they're trying to take an academic approach to this, as you can see. At one time they say it's cheaper to amalgamate, and the other time they say it's not so cheaper, depending on different factors. But anyway, the point is that there is no competition in a single entity. I mean, you can keep consolidating until you have one national police force. Then what happens? Then eventually they just break it up. Eventually, this is crazy.
Jury's out on that.
Oh, it is. Oh God.
Just look at the current provincial election. How much dialogue is there around policing amongst the candidates in this election?
Yeah, there is none.
Exactly, none. And there wasn't in the last election.
Yep.
And there wasn't in the election before.
And that video was from 2009 or 2013. It's not that old, but it's old enough. However, most of these problems have been happening for decades, if not longer. Yeah.
What it means is an amalgamated service. I put forward a plan that I will completely close down the Victoria Police Department, give it all to Paul. I'll give it all to Central
And what
Sandwich.
happens when
You
that
police
happens?
the region. I don't care what it's called. It could be called the Capital City Regional Police Department, the Saanich Victoria Police Department. We don't care. So it's not about turf. It's not about our history. And it would be as painful as me also. At one time, the Victoria Police, founded in 1858, we policed the whole island at one time. So, but it's important to understand this is about a structure, okay?
Yeah, so he's making the claim that they policed the whole island maybe at the beginning of Canada. Yeah, it is true. However, they had a smaller population, and there are many different factors. There's many details, right?
Or if we were a regionalized force, we could have caught the bad guy quicker.
Oh.
It could have been better. Could
And
have
why-
been smoother. Never do you say, if we would have, when we work on an operation, gee, if we were a split force, we probably would have solved this quicker. You just don't hear that. Okay. If you just look at a blended operation for the Southern Peninsula, including the RCMP jurisdictions, you're looking at probably 500 officers. Okay. Our budget alone is about 53 million, so you're probably looking at a $150 million budget. Once there's a critical mass in policing, once you get to that 400, 500, you begin to develop your own specialty units that are absolutely crucial. Things that we cannot do here. Internet child cybercrime, child pornography investigations that require such follow. We cannot do it because we simply don't have the numbers. We have to rely on the RCMP nationally or Vancouver.
Yeah, it's
We
crazy.
compete with one another.
Oh,
We
that's
hire
bad.
good people.
That's good.
I can tell you, as soon as I get wind, if I was to get wind that Paul's about to hire a quality candidate, I'm going to swoop in and I'm going to hire him underneath. And that's the way it operates. We compete against one another.
And that's the way it should be. If you don't like the working conditions at one policing organization, you can go to another. And then the one that's losing the workers, they're going to ask themselves, why are we losing them? So they have to correct. They have to compete with others. Yeah, well, of course. So therefore, the case they make for amalgamation is that one, it's for efficiency. They say sharing resources, and the first reason they give is cost savings, and that's already been disproven. Yep, look it up. OPP has been taking over police agencies for decades, and they've already showed that it doesn't save anything. But that's the rationale that they give to do it. It's just and now many policing agencies that are amalgamated with OPP and other organizations that did the same, they're going back to what they were a separate organization. Political nonsense, but the trend is that they're amalgamating to consolidate control. It's just
I have
unbelievable.
many kids that work for me right now that had a number of applications, and one of them was with the RCMP. We just operate faster. So it doesn't make much sense, this kind of competition. It certainly doesn't.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't make any sense to him. Why does it make sense? Competition is a good thing, like I explained previously. Oh,
Okay,
man.
individual units. Integrated units I am not a fan of. We've withdrawn from a couple of integrated units, and it'll be a rare case indeed where we get back into them. They simply do not work for an agency like ours.
Yeah.
So if you look at individual units, here's an example. And when we've said to the agencies, why don't we put all the dogs in one spot in Central Sandwich, place them all together? No, won't work. What we're told is, well, we train our dogs differently. I mean, what it just does not make sense. Ident.
Well, that is probably true. They train their own, and there is some empire building. They don't want to give up control. Also, that's true. Also,
Identification, forensic identification services. I've got how many? 5? How many? Brian, about 5. The RCMP have got 5. I don't know how many Saanich has. I mean, they compete against one another.
and that's not a bad thing. Just think of it. If you have multiple grocery stores in the same city, you can go to the one with better prices and better customer service, all types of things. If you have one grocery store, what can they do? Like Walmart taking over everything. They just jack up the price eventually, right? It's very basic stuff.
If you don't think that I'm right, and I'm sure
It's
these
a
officers
nightmare.
will have compelling arguments, let's look at individual studies done by academics, done by former Justice Opal, done by the coroner's inquest at the Lee murder homicide, all recommended we do this. Wally Opal heard, over a period of 6 months, heard 150 witnesses on one of the most brutal crimes in Canadian history, an academic study that actually listened to what people have to say, people that are affected. And one of his strongest recommendations is that we pursue regionalization.
Oh, wow. Yeah. All people that are also concerned about keeping their work, their work positions, their JOBs, and these so-called experts, they are trained in, they don't see the forest from the trees, basically. That's what it is. Oh, man.
Who decides the decision-making power for policing in BC? The BC Police Act makes it clear that the authority for providing policing is on local governments. Municipalities get to choose if they want to have a municipal department of their own, or if they want to contract with the provincial police in the province with a municipal contract. Right now in BC, I believe there's 12 municipal police services and several RCMP units throughout the province. The province, you heard, establishes the standards, so they control the nature of policing. It's up to the local municipalities to ensure those standards are met.
And it should be that way. It should be up to the local municipalities what they want to do. And you see amalgamating cities as well, like Toronto. 25 years ago, they amalgamated all the surrounding areas. This is happening all over the world, especially in Canada. You take into account that rising housing prices and the political corruption and all these other things, it's not too hard to see what they're doing. And they want to set up regional governments too. They want to they're still doing amalgamations. They still give the same reasons. Oh, we're going to save money. I said, no. In the long term, they won't. In the short term, they will, just for mainly for elections to get votes. Oh, the politicians save things. These guys should be thrown into the river. My God, politics means many ticks. They're parasites. Yep.
Working together and promoting a unified front against crime is a no-brainer. We all agree with that. The rising costs of policing have influenced some to believe that amalgamation would reduce costs. The research that I've looked at does not support this.
Yeah, it does not support it. Yeah, well, make up your own mind.
Is it better before or after amalgamation? And I talked to my colleague, Assistant Commissioner Lipinski, who's my equivalent in the Lower Mainland. A little bigger piece of the pie there, but similar discussions. And so before you had a forum like this, he took the opportunity, or tried to find, is there anywhere in those models that we saw there a before and after assessment? Before the amalgamation,
there have been assessments.
As was mentioned, there was a baseline, either cost efficiencies or operational efficiencies. Now you have that, and after the amalgamation, has anyone actually looked at them and said, yes, there was a benefit to it, or not? None have been done that we're aware of. Maybe it's something for academia to look at.
And if the people that work there say anything, they lose their work, right? They lose their JOB. So no one's going to say anything because they're all at the same pig trough, right? What a disgrace.
We should also be considering what would it look like to blend or amalgamate the existing isolated provincial components, and is there efficiencies to be gained through that? Maybe have 5 or 6 super provincial detachments spread out through, looking after the entire provincial area, outside those municipal areas, or wherever that municipal agency ends up with the boundaries. This is something to think about. If the same rationale or logic applies to economies of scale.
And many people have seen over the past 5 years what the govern and meant are two different words. Root words. Govern means control, and meant means mind. Control the mind. And they see that, do they really want a centralized police force? Many people won't even go outside anymore. They'll be afraid to. They'll be afraid to say anything or do anything. What does it remind you of? Maybe Stasi secret police? Oh, wow. If you say anything, you go missing. Jesus.
The decisions were made in 2002 by the provincial government. Just remember that the amalgamation between us and Esquimalt was done for a very valid reason at the time. There was issues with the Esquimalt Police Department. So the amalgamation was done. I mean, anyone that suggests that this is an easy arrangement, it's not. It's tricky. And
yeah, you can say it's tricky, all right. Yeah, especially when politicians are involved. Many ticks, remember? Oh, man.
Is your perceived desire to see an amalgamated or regionalized police force within Victoria driven by something more like the political question?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
Costs of policing something like the downtown core and or Esquimalt are greater than the tax base of those two municipalities are capable of supporting. And perhaps Chief Hames can also weigh in on that.
It's a tricky issue. Victoria Montreal, Vancouver all suffer from what's called the core city phenomenon. That means people come in here to work, they come in here to party at night, and the people where they come in from other municipalities do not contribute to that infrastructure. Now, the argument is, hey, we get all the revenue from the bars and everything, so it kind of works out. Well, it doesn't work out. Now, we get along, and if we track the people we arrest, a lot of them aren't from Victoria. They're citizens from outside Victoria. So the issue for us from a cost perspective is the average, here's some numbers for you, the average income in Victoria is $38,000 a year.
Okay, yeah.
I think it's a third or a quarter of the population is $18,000 and less. So we're not a rich municipality. You go to Saanich, the average is $75,000. They are a wealthy suburb without a downtown core, and they benefit from, they have a budget issue where they are able to have certain officers doing certain jobs. So we think that with a regional force, through GPS technology, they won't lose police officers. If their municipality wants to have 5 officers patrolling all the time in Saanich, they can have that. But what they will lose is their administrative infrastructure. They would lose that. But if we were a regional force, we would have to find places for an amalgamated dog unit, amalgamated traffic unit, amalgamated...
Oh my God, just there's brainiacs.
And that would probably be in a central location, would probably be in the Saanich area.
Simply leave it independent and set up agreements with them. Oh my gosh,
the core
this is
city
crazy.
issue is a major one. And I often point out, particularly in the debate in Metro Vancouver, is that there really is no longer a single core city. If you look at the spread of Vancouver, it actually has about 3, each of which pulls people in for work and recreation. Often not as large as the situation in downtown Vancouver, but it's still a very significant chunk of the population moving into those outside metropolitan areas or sub-areas in the city. So to just simply view Vancouver, for example, as a place that has a core city to which all resources would be drained, I think is a falsehood. The other issue there is that oftentimes those core city areas, plural, in a metro area, are extremely good training grounds for junior police officers.
Oh, I bet it is. Yeah, training ground. Oh my God.
To the outer areas. So you actually get expertise moving out, not in, to the inner city areas. And that benefits people in the suburban areas. I think that's often lost sight of. There was a study done on where ambulance, police, and fire service personnel live in Vancouver, and they're all living on the outer areas. No surprise. Jamie?
If you want to see how police... it's not going to be a good sample size, but pretend to be a homeless person, go into a homeless shelter and talk to the police, see it on random times, see how they treat you. Do you really want people like this being your masters? We don't need so many police.
One of the areas that Randy had made is, why not look at, if we're going to have a regional force in the southern peninsula, why not make it all RCMP?
Oh yeah, make it all on the street.
Why not look at that?
Well, Big Daddy's watching.
The Mounties, through no fault of them, run about anywhere from 20 to 30% vacancies in many of their places. And we've done just a very rough calculation. Then the dedicated officers that work at West Shore are severely under-resourced. They need more cops there. But if a municipality can get away with paying a fewer number of officers, they do. You talk to people in West Shore, how often they see police versus where they see other areas. And it is not a slight on the Mounties. I spent 35 years with them. It's one of the best organizations in the world, but it's tough sledding. And we work under different environments. If I was to convince all the Mounties to come and join the Victoria Police, I can't. There's no pension portability, so they would give that up. So there's no there, and vice versa. So that's one of the wrinkles to a blended operation.
Instead of having so many police everywhere, how about we have grocery stores everywhere with healthy food, and we have clinics set up. You can personally go and get a cell nutritional analysis to find, just like a botanist would a plant. How about we have that? How about we have low-cost housing? How about we have low-cost everything, high-quality everything? Everyone has a place to go to work, and everyone has a place to live. I mean, doesn't that sound wonderful, like a utopia? That would be nice, wouldn't it? Why do we need so many police? It's inflating budgets so they can. It's spreading disease. Oh my God.
That's there in Canada. There's a division between policing and elected leaders, and it's done for a valid reason. So, and the only thing I would add to our discussions is to have a careful look at the ambulance service in this province. The value of having one operation throughout the whole province with a series of smaller operations, and it was brought together for very valid reasons, and now it's a model of across Canada. So it seems to work well. And the naysayers.
Is our healthcare system working too well? No, it's still acute based, mainly acute based. That's what it is. Therefore, you call an ambulance when you get sick, right? It's sick care, not health care.
Say it won't work. Well, it does work. That's the sad reality.
In what way?
Can I just respond?
What are the details?
There is a very close tie between prior amalgamation of municipalities and subsequent amalgamation of police services. The two things symbiotic. It's not necessary for the amalgamation of municipalities to occur before you can amalgamate police services. It just so happens it's flowed that way. And in fact, if you look at other large cities, New York, London, in England, wherever, you'll find that the amalgamations have occurred, have been well established for years and years and years. Even though there's a patchwork quilt of municipalities lying underneath. It's just a funding issue.
In England, does anyone know the model that's in England? They have 5.
Well, there are a number of regional,
big regional forces throughout the whole country.
With police
So why do we have to copy them?
authorities.
Right. So I think someone told me there are 5 for the whole country. So.
I don't think I think it's more than that.
Oh,
Okay. So did I answer your question? Is it clearer to you, madam?
Yes, thank you very much.
Okay. Okay, you're next. Yes. Yeah.
Ben Isett, Victoria City Council. I'd like to acknowledge that the chair of the CRD is here as well, Alistair Bryson, and my colleague Shelley Gudgeon, and also a number of representatives of the Oak Bay and Saanich forces. I just wanted to ask the chiefs and also Rob, Professor Gordon, could the regional districts be a model for the cash flows to a single regional force, or for the appointment of the civilian representatives to a police board? I had heard there might be some statutory barrier to that, but to me that seems to be a model where rather than 13 municipalities having to weigh in, we already have representatives at the regional district.
Well, at least they're taking questions from the public, but they didn't take any questions regarding the amalgamation of police to turn them into a police state, as you saw in Stasi, and you see in China today. I haven't lived in China. From my understanding, it's much like that. Everything's watched. The digital currency, cameras everywhere. We're turning into that. Again, it's not addressing why people are committing crimes, right? Why? I mean, like I said, we have an acute-based medical system.
Where it's been tricky, I can't speak specifically about the CRD, but for instance, the CREST radio system, while it's a good system, we're trying to move ahead. It's a slow process, but when we go to there to make change, the CREST board are all elected officials from the municipalities, and they don't always get along, and so that's a tricky one. Now the CRD, I think it's made up also of mayors.
Yeah, and some council members.
So it's tricky, but it does. You couldn't begin a discussion of regionalization in the peninsula without them at the table, for sure. Right.
Water supply. Hospital capital spending is already amalgamated, so that seems to be pay municipal contributions, but it would avoid a way of having to have spats over each municipality putting in, because it's an automatic formula that's already worked out through this 4-decade-old structure.
Anything in the way of that in legislation at this point?
Even if were the only legislation to be concerned about that is unalterable would be the Constitution.
Oh, the Constitution. Let's ignore that, right?
Right. And almost, I draft this stuff. Almost anything can be changed. It's just you just need the political will.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah, they'll change anything. Why don't we decentralize everything? That would be nice. Give us the choice to choose what we want, what we need. There are certain services that can't be decentralized. If you look up the concept of tragedy of the commons, an economic concept, rivers, water pipes, things like that we all use, those really should not be decentralized because they're common items, correct? You cannot easily duplicate water pipes. You cannot easily duplicate rivers. It's almost impossible. That's what it is. But most of the things in our life can be decentralized and open to competition. Private business, that would be great.
My name is Gordon Stewart. I'm a mental health advocate. I see two things. If there was a regional police force and it was in Saanich, I think it would work very well. But I also think of the citizens. If they're willing to pay for their police department and they like what they see, they don't want to lose that. I think they should be able to keep what they have.
That'd be nice, yeah.
That's all.
Common sense, yeah. Decentralization.
Wondering about
Yeah.
taking the factors that may or may not be available on amalgamated situations, where an amalgamation occurs, which then becomes a regional force, and if there's a change toward efficiency and more service delivered in a quicker time.
Yeah, I don't have those numbers, but that's something I'm sure if we could get someone to study this officially, that would probably be looked at.
And those statistics are available. We just don't have them here tonight.
In terms of selling the idea.
But response time is an extremely important measure of police efficiency. It's
Yeah.
one that population looks
Yeah.
at.
There's a model that follows now where there's modeling techniques where many departments will examine their statistics on a map and see where the hotspots are, and if they are in a certain time of the day, then you preload patrol officers in those districts, those zones, so they can get there all that much faster. It's just good, smart policing. And there are different modeling techniques now to work with citizens. Most departments now have crime reports, I think, .com, or you can go on and see the crimes in your neighborhood and your community, that kind of thing. So, I mean, those areas we all work together and we share ideas. And the chiefs meet. We meet monthly. The area chiefs here. I chair the municipal chiefs. We meet monthly. All the BC chiefs and RCMP. We meet every 3 months. So lots of good ideas, lots of best practices shared. So it isn't about individual departments. We're all colleagues and we work well together. This is a business perspective. Does it make sense? Is it a better model to focus in regions such as ours and the Lower Mainland to look at a regional solution? And
like I said, decentralize everything. Have food everywhere, good food everywhere. You can easily buy high quality. Get personalized assistance like what I do. Instead of running to the big daddy government doctor that's going to give you pills and surgeries when you get sick. Oh, you don't want to be there. Yeah.
Correct me, but I thought the original Police Act had the mayor sitting on it. Was the head of the police committee?
Oh, mayors.
some interesting areas. Now the mayor is the chair of the police board.
So you'd have 13 mayors.
No, a regional board each one would appoint someone, and the chair, I'm not sure. There's discussions under certainly amendments to the Police Act that might look at that again.
13 mayors. One was bad enough to deal with 13.
Yeah, I would say he's right. Yeah. So what they're cooking up is insanity. Yeah.
I don't know.
Questions? Okay.
Yeah, he doesn't know. Well, that's great. What do they know? Oh man.
Comment or something to ponder upon, but at the end of the day, as community members, I think we all kind of want to feel safe and have healthy communities.
Yeah.
And there seems to be that political aspect that gets in the way. So what as we as a community, what can we do to get the politicians to take the risk to make
They're asking him what they can do.
Decisions and maybe decisions that aren't necessarily the most positive in everyone's viewpoints, and take that risk to take the jump to work together to create these communities that are safe and healthy for all of us.
Good question. Who wants to take it?
My issue would be, I'm biased. I fully admit it.
Of course he is.
I would be happy with a provincial government to say we'll study this formally. No more just rubbing around the edges. So we'll tackle it. Now we've been told that's happening, and nothing is going to happen until after the election. And I know police services have that as part of the OPAL recommendation. So it's being looked at eventually. But I think a formal study, one way or the other, is it doable? Does it make sense? Is it what the people want here? Put it on the referendum at the election. Those kinds of things. But let your voice be heard to your elected officials.
Yeah, if people actually voted, there's no incentive to vote.
More events to engage the public, to hear what the public has to say, and then take it to council. I believe our council is not pro, but we have, our system's broken currently. We have to find changes and work together to make it more efficient, and I agree with what Chief Graham has said tonight. So we are working as a council also to lobby the provincial government to get a question on the next ballot on both amalgamation and policing. And the studies need to be done to find out what the most effective way to govern ourselves in a more efficient way for public safety and for services.
That would be nice, but like I said, we don't live in an ideal world. Anyway, this video I found online, but there's tons of information proving what I say. This is not paranoid delusions. I will even put the links, and I'll put some additional images from the thumbnails to what I'm talking about in my video. It's just like we need to do something here instead of complaining and just it's the same old thing. Anyway, this the following is the credits to who made the video. Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. It's good that they're putting this online. But the freedoms have been slowly disappearing, especially over the past 5 years. Yep, April 23rd, 2013. Anyway, if you like what I'm doing here, go to my website with the free symptom measure tool and research what I say, research the things I talk, go and watch my video again, research the links I have on my video as well at the bottom description. Anyway, please like and subscribe. Main thing, I need to get more viewers. Take care. Yeah.